This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. It is Jake, your host. Today's episode is something that a lot of us are familiar with, we know of, we've heard of, maybe we've been to, but I'm telling you, and I'm in that category, Smithgall Woods State Park. A lot of us know that name. We've been there maybe once before, but I'm telling you, there are secrets that we talk about in this podcast that you are going to want the inside scoop on. I called my business partner when I was leaving this podcast, and I was like, dude, we have got to plan an event up here, a spring retreat, a planning session, just a time, long weekend with the spouse. There are so many things about this park that most people have absolutely no idea of, and we're going to share them with you on this podcast. You know how to find us online, North Georgia Life Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. You can always email us for ideas for future episodes at northgeorgialifepodcast@gmail.com. And if you have a friend, a family member, a coworker, a manager, a department head, where you guys are thinking about doing some sort of team building, small retreat, you need to pay attention to this episode because this has everything you're looking for, and it's a hidden treasure. Part of it is a hidden secret, and we almost missed it. It's at the end of the episode, and you'll not want to miss it. With that, we'll get started. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. Today is an episode that I will admit to you, when I was on my way up here, I get refreshed and recharged every time I get up in the North Georgia mountains. We are here today at the Smithgall Woods State Park just on the outskirts of Helen, Georgia. And if you have not been up this direction, you're missing something. I just love coming up to this area of the North Georgia region. And this park is a unique park for a number of reasons, and we're going to share some of those things because a lot of us, when we're going out exploring, doing things, sometimes we get kind of caught in touristy areas, and I know there is a touristy element to Helen, but this is a location that there are a ton of nature lovers, but not an excessive amount. There's no tour buses that are crowding the parking lot. You've got a lot of hikers, a lot of people that love to fish, and if you're one of those people that just like to explore new places, this is a really good location to check out. So today we are with Angel Kane, who is the naturalist here at the park. And Angel, thanks for taking your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So you are, fortunately, I feel like I'm getting older and older too fast. You are really young for your position. So I would love for you to tell us your backstory on how you got the outdoors ingrained in kind of what you wanted to do in life. And then you're, effectively fresh out of school. So congratulations on landing a job at a state park like this. You grew up in Dahlonega, is that right?
I did.
So tell us about life in Dahlonega, how you ended up kind of making your college decisions on what you wanted to do and pursue.
So yeah, I grew up in Dahlonega, Georgia. I was born and raised there my whole life. Growing up, I was really big into 4-H, so that's something that I spent a lot of time doing. Going to Rock Eagle, going to Wasilla, seeing all the state. I've pretty much seen all the state, and I have to agree with you, North Georgia's one of the prettiest parts of Georgia, in my opinion. But I did 4-H my whole high school career. And once I graduated from high school, I made the decision to go down to Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College in Tifton, Georgia, and get my degree in natural resource management with a concentration on wildlife. From there, I got my 4-year degree in wildlife management pretty much, and I came home without a job. I saw that this position was open, and I thought that it was pretty much perfect for me. I never expected to really work with people. I was more of the wildlife management, wildlife damage,
That's why you got a degree in wildlife, not sociology.
Yeah, exactly. I was more focused on the wildlife aspect, and so that was one of the issues I was concerned with when I actually took this job was, am I going to mesh with people well? Am I going to be able to take my knowledge of wildlife and bring it to people and make it in a way that they can understand it? And so that's what I did. And so I've been here since September, and I absolutely love the job. I work with school groups, and then my job here is pretty much promoting public programming for the park. So any kind of events we do on the weekends, I'm responsible for planning and putting those together. And then again, like I said, working with the school groups and taking them out in the stream and, flipping over rocks and looking for macroinvertebrates and kind of, teaching them what's around here. A lot of people just don't realize some of the awesome rare plants and animals we have around here. And so this is a great area to do it. I love being in North Georgia.
Yeah, that makes me feel a little nostalgic because that was one of my favorite things growing up as a kid was just getting in a creek and just looking for, salamanders and crawfish and all sorts of different things that were hiding under rocks. It's a great activity, and this is a great location for checking out some of those things in the wildlife. So were you kind of always have the outdoors in your blood growing up? That was just kind of a natural fit for you?
Yeah, for sure. So I have a younger brother, and me and him, every chance we got, we were outside. Playing in the creek, any chance we had to be outside, we were. And so that was something that I always really enjoyed. I really like hiking. I really like being outdoors. And so that's why I went to school for natural resource management, was so I could be outside, doing what I love and not have to really worry about sitting in a desk in an office all day. Because there's no better place to be than outside. Like you said, I mean, there's just something about going outside that refreshes you, recharges you. And I get to see that every day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to say, it's a pretty special place to have call an office.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you give us just a short history on the park here itself, Smithgall Woods?
Yeah. So Smithgall Woods is a really interesting area. In 1819, this whole area was ruled by Native Americans. So Cherokee Indians were all over this area. 1829 is when the first gold miners first started coming in. The first gold miners that got here, they did pan mining with the actual pans in the stream. After they did pan mining for a little while, they realized that it wasn't the most effective way to find gold. So they introduced the practice of hydraulic mining at Smithgall Woods. At the time, it wasn't known as Smithgall Woods, but so they introduced the practice of hydraulic mining. And hydraulic mining is essentially where you take a giant hose and you shoot water at the base of the mountain and cause all that sediment to wash off. And that sediment would wash into the boxes, and they would sift it out and look for gold that way. It was a lot more time effective and worked a lot better than using a pan. And so they did the hydraulic mining for a few years until the state of Georgia actually stepped in and said, hey, this is a really destructive process.
Not the greatest thing for the environment.
Exactly. This is a really destructive process. And so the state of Georgia actually banned the process. Once the process was actually banned at Smithgall Woods, the next phase of people came in, and that was the loggers. And so we had people come in from Gainesville. At the time, they were actually building the railroad down in Gainesville. We had people come in and log this area extensively. So most of the timber that you see here is second growth timber. But they chopped all the trees down and sent them to Gainesville to build the railroad. So after that, the environment started to heal itself with the process of succession. And the plants started to regrow. And a man by the name of Charles Smithgall, he was a media mogul out of Gainesville. He made his money through the media. He actually started the Gainesville Times. He started a radio station as well. I'm not familiar with the name, but media was where he made his money. And so Charles Smithgall, he started to buy these small parcels of land across Helen with the end goal to be to connect all these small parcels together into one giant conservation area. And so over a few years, he actually collected or started buying up pieces of property. And over the years, he actually bought about 6,000 acres worth of property. In 1994, when he was about to pass, he made an agreement with the state of Georgia that was to say, once I go, I want to give my 6,000 acres to the state if you promise to take care of it as a conservation area. And so the state of Georgia accepted the gift, of course, and they've been managing it as a conservation area ever since. So Smithgall Woods is a little different than a lot of your state parks. We are a conservation park, so that means our main goal here is actually protecting those plants and animals on site. A lot of your other state parks are like recreation parks, so their main focus is really like kayaking, canoeing, ziplining, getting people in.
Right.
Our focus, like I said, is just conservation and protecting what we do have here and making sure that no extreme processes can change the landscape like they did once before. As you go through the park, you can actually see a lot of evidence from the gold miners. You can see, old mine shafts, old mining tunnels where they actually did the hydraulic mining and things like that. So you can see a glimpse into the past all over this place.
Do you have outdoor groups? Years ago when I worked up this direction, I was involved in I think it was the Gold Rush chapter of Trout Unlimited and the TU. We would go and do projects on streams, stream restoration projects and stuff like that. Does any of that occur around here? Do you have that going on a constant basis, or what's that like for doing some of those things just to keep it as natural as possible? But there is a natural erosion that happens, so to try to slow some of that or whatever.
Yeah, so briefly I'll just talk about Dukes Creek and then lead into that. So Dukes Creek is actually one of the top 100 trophy trout streams in the United States of America. And so we have people come from all over to actually fish in Dukes Creek.
Yeah, there were a couple guys out in the parking lot this morning.
Yeah, exactly. But with the fishing, because it is a conservation area, we have to make sure everything's regulated. And so we do allow the public to come out and fish. Our fishing days, they actually start on October 1st, and I think they run through May. But any Wednesday, Saturday, or Sunday that you'd like to fish, you can just call our visitor center, and they'll tell you what dates we have open, because we can only allow 15 people on the stream at a time throughout the park. So those 15 people will sign up, go hit the stream, fish all day, and then come back. But Dukes Creek being a trophy trout stream, we do want to make sure we protect it. And so we do a lot of work with Trout Unlimited throughout the year just to kind of make sure that we're not fishing when the water's too warm and we're not overfishing. And so that's one of the things we do in the actual stream when we let people fish. We go by what we call the ABCs of fishing. And so that's A stands for artificial lure. You have to use an artificial lure. B stands for barbless hooks, and C is catch and release. And so every time you fish here, you have to follow the ABCs of fishing. And that as well, and that in combination with working with Trout Unlimited and things like that, it keeps our trout, at a good healthy size, keeps the stream healthy, and we keep checks on the water levels and monitor all that to make sure the fish are happy.
Is any of that stocked, or is it all just they've been here forever and it's natural?
So, yeah, we do stock it, I believe. I'm not sure how often or when that actually occurs, but a lot of them have been here. I know that a few years ago, we actually had a major flooding event in the summer, and that actually caused some of the fish to kind of wash downstream a little bit. But we also do supplemental feeding. A lot of people don't know about that, but we'll go out 2 times a week and actually feed the fish. And so if you know where they're feeding the fish at, of course, you know where that big one's laying down there in the hole. So the fish, they kind of stay in the same areas too. I mean, they move around, but if you have luck in a spot, you're more than likely to come back.
Say the avid angler's ears just perked up. Any favorite part of what you do here? This is a unique industry, if you will. This is a unique job. Your visitor center, as we were talking about before we got started, you've got a variety. One of the things that I really love about places like this is you see the real wildlife that is around us. A lot of times when you might go to zoos or larger parks like that, you'll see things that are neat, but they're not indigenous and native to your area. Whereas here you get a real live look at some a black bear, all kinds of wildlife, birds of prey, all sorts of neat things. Oh, and you got a beaver over there. Look at that. It's a fat beaver. So you could probably read through all of the information here that's in your visitor center as far as the indigenous wildlife in 15, 20 minutes. So it's not an overwhelming process and amount of information. And again, really, really neat. In that capacity, is there any part of this that's just been the coolest part for you? So
I'll actually tell you about one of the best things that happened to me at Smithgall. So I'd heard, we have white-tailed deer, we have bear, we have turkey here. The 2 more common would be, your black bear and turkey. And everybody had told me that we see bears all the time, whatever. So one day I actually went out and I was hiking the Wetland Loop Trail, which is not a very long trail. It's like half a mile, and it's a loop trail, not far from the visitor center at all. It's a really easy walk that most people like to do, because it actually circles an old beaver pond, and so you can see like the stages of succession, and you can see where the beaver lodge was and all that. So it's a really neat trail. But anyway, I'd started walking it. Me being the dendrology person, I found a tree, and I didn't know what the tree was. So I actually squatted down on the ground, and I was flipping through a book trying to figure out, what this tree was. And all of a sudden I heard something like 20, 30 feet in front of me, like rustling on the trail. And I was thinking, all right, that's way too big to be a person. That's way too clumsy to be a deer. I was like, what's going on, And so about that time I looked up, and sure enough, an adult black bear just popped out in front of the trail, just 20 feet in front of me, and stood there. And of course, here I go to reach in my pocket to grab my phone and take a picture. And of course he took off. But that was one of the neatest experience I've ever had. And it was here at Smithgall. It was amazing to see that large of an animal in its natural habitat. It didn't care about me, didn't care a thing in the world about me. And a lot of the time, people are terrified of black bears. And what I tell them is, black bears, they're not aggressive. That's not in their nature. Now, a grizzly bear, on the other hand,
different story.
Yeah, you might get got by a grizzly, but black bears, they're not aggressive. And so everybody's like, were you scared? No, I wasn't scared. It was just more shocking,
startling.
that you just didn't see it coming. And so that was one of the coolest things. And I tell people that, just keep your eyes open and keep on the lookout, because if you come here, you'll see at least a deer, a turkey, or something. And so that's what I really enjoy. I've worked at the zoos, and I've seen that kind of that side of things, and I know that they serve their purpose. But here, everything's natural. It's in its natural environment. It's the way that it should be. And so I like when people actually get to see what's actually going on in their backyards, and they had no idea. So that's
as far as just the uniqueness, the history, the maybe local cultural piece of this park. Anything particular that you think is the biggest positive or the biggest asset that this place has or is?
Honestly, I just think that the whole idea of Smithgall actually donating it to the state was pretty incredible. Because, like I said, we're a little over 6,000 acres here. And so there's a small chunk when you first come on the property. So since we are a conservation park, the way that it works, when you get here, you actually have to park in the parking lot and then walk throughout the rest of the park. We don't allow any through traffic. And so any of the trails that you want to get to, you actually have to park your car, get out, walk to the trailhead, walk the trail, and then walk back to the visitor center. And so we have a couple of close trails, closer to the visitor center. That way it's accessible. But then you have to think those trails, like toward the back of the park, you got to walk 2.5, 3 miles to get back there. Then you do your mile trail and then walk the 3 miles back. So you're looking at a 6-7 mile hike by the time you're done that day.
Right.
And so for a lot of people, that's no big deal. But one of the things I do like doing here at the park is we offer guided hikes on the second Saturday of every month. And what I'll do is I'll drive our 14-passenger van back to the trailhead, get everybody on the van, get out on the trail, walk the trail, get back in the van, and drive back to the visitor center. And that way you don't have to worry about walking from the visitor center and back, and you just get to enjoy the trail. So I really like taking people back there, because a lot of the time it's people that can't really walk back there on their own, and so they're getting to see a whole another side of the park that they wouldn't have gotten to see another way. So I mean, that's what I really like about it, is it's kind of secluded, and once you do get back there on some of those trails, I mean, you get down there to the waterfall and you can just sit there and admire the beauty around you all day. A lot of people don't know we're here, and it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing that we're so secluded, I guess. But the people that we do get coming here, they love it. And
I didn't know you had the guided hikes, so that's great, because a lot of times I think there's a, no pun intended, but kind of a lost in the woods mentality of people who are thinking about, would like to explore new areas that they don't know where to start. You just show up and you hope somebody's got a map and
right.
can point you in the right direction, or you just follow the other people that got there, 3 minutes before you. So to have that as an option, as a guided hike, is that on a online calendar, or how do people get?
I actually keep everything updated on our Facebook page, the Smithgall Woods State Park Facebook. That's got all of our current events and what we've got upcoming for the year. You can also find it on the state parks page, but Facebook's most up-to-date, most accurate thing. But yeah, with the guided hikes, I'll post the sign up online. You just call the visitor center and say that you want to come, and then we'll go out and do it the day of. But the thing about the guided hike too is not only am I showing you where to go, where you don't get lost, but we actually talk about some of the native plants and some of, the native stuff around us, what this tree is good for, what this plant was used for. And so a lot of people actually like to know that too, because, you see all this stuff around you and you never have an idea that, hey, you can rub that on an ant bite and it takes the swelling down. So I like the guided hikes for that reason too, just teaching people simple little tricks to get to survive in the woods if they do get lost.
That's really neat. I've never heard of anybody having that as an option. So we were talking about before we started just some of the school trips. Can you share with us a story from the school trip that you were sharing with me earlier?
Yeah. As we were talking, the events that I actually put on for the public, one weekend I actually did a scavenger hunt. And the way the scavenger hunt worked is you came to the visitor center and picked up a sheet. And the sheet had about 20 things listed, and it was things like moss or a rock or water. And basically what the kids had to do was go out and take pictures of all the things on the list and then come back to the visitor center and show us to get a prize. Well, one of the things I actually put on the list was bring back a piece of trash to the visitor center. And so when the kids got back and they were bringing their, scavenger hunts back, I was like, well, did you guys find everything? Did you have trouble finding anything at all? And one of the kids, several of the kids were like, the only thing we couldn't find was a piece of trash. And, I started laughing and I was like, that's a great thing. That's really good. You couldn't find trash. And so, I will say we do have a really clean park. Our maintenance people, they do a really good job keeping everything looking good too. But not just our maintenance, it's the people that visit. They respect it and they take care of it. And so I really like interacting with folks that come by and hearing their stories, where they're from. And a lot of the time, this is just a spot on the map. So they go to all these state parks and they see all this. And a lot of the time people have a really positive review of Smithgall because it's not like a lot of the parks that they've been to. We're different, and so I think that's kind of what draws people in as well and keeps them coming back.
Yeah.
And there's always something, on 6,000 acres. There's always something to see. I haven't even seen half of this place, and so.
Do you have any favorite spots in the park?
Dukes Creek Falls is not actually within the park. In order to get to Dukes Creek Falls, it's right across from us. Basically, you just drive up Richard Russell Scenic Highway. I think it's Richard Russell. Drive up Richard Russell, and right there about a mile on the left is a little parking lot. You pay your $5, and you can walk down to Dukes Creek Falls. Dukes Creek Falls is beautiful. It's only about a mile to walk back down in there, but those falls are something else. They're absolutely incredible. And that's, like I said, it's not in our park. I guess the best place in the actual Smithgall Conservation Area, my favorite trail is actually the Kathy Ellis or the Chunani Falls Trail. And that's one of the ones that I was telling you about. It's kind of further back in the park. It's actually the furthest back in the park. I think it's a little over 2.5, 3 miles to get back there to it. But it's about a half a mile walk down there, and it's shaded by rhododendron. I mean, it's beautiful. And it's one of our more hairy, untouched trails. Like, all of our trails are well maintained and they're well kept. But, our Laurel Ridge Trail, which is right here at the visitor center, it sees a lot more people just because it's so convenient to walk on. And so there is, it's more beaten up, more easily to see the trail. Chunani Falls, it's kind of, you got to dodge more obstacles and things to get. So I really like that trail personally. And then, like I said, Wetland Loop Trail, that's where I saw the black bear. So I have respect for that trail as well. Yeah. And Laurel Ridge Trail, that's actually a great trail too. Like I said, that's the one right near our visitor center. It's a little over 1.5 miles. But once you get to the top, it's got a beautiful outlook of Mount Yonah. And so you can sit up there on our bench that we just installed and just take in take in nature.
Yeah, I got a couple different views of Mount Yonah because I came a different way this morning. And man, you just talk about such a beautiful area of the country, and certainly the state. You've got all these, old barns, and you've got mountains in the backdrop. It just looks like something out of a painting. So if you've not been up here, it's okay to get lost. You'll have beautiful scenery while you're finding your way back. One of the things I like to do with every episode as a question that has nothing to do about anything, which I call the lightning round. You might have to put it on your thinking cap because this one might be a little difficult, but I'll help you out with this. Titled Top Tom. So in your opinion, what are the top 3 Tom Hanks movies?
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump. That's my number one too. 100%.
What's the one? The Green Mile?
Yes.
Isn't that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the
Oh
name
my gosh,
of it.
I forgot he was in that.
Yeah.
That's such a good movie.
Yeah. And
man.
I don't even know a third one. Or
I forgot about The Green Mile. Gosh, it was Apollo 13. And then I'm kind of ashamed to admit it, but Sleepless in Seattle was such a good movie.
Yeah.
Gosh, Green Mile. That is such a good movie too.
Mm-hmm. Man.
I was all, and then I was like, maybe Castaway. You got me. I totally forgot about the Green Mile. I got to watch that now. So you mentioned the Facebook page. How do people find out more about what's going on at the park, upcoming events, the guided hikes? If they're an avid angler, maybe they just moved here from another part of the country. They can't wait to get out in local trout streams. How do they get connected with what's going on in the park, availability, and those sorts of things?
Yeah, so like I said, Facebook is our main way of most up-to-date, most accurate information. We post on that pretty much every day. But not only Facebook, you can find it on our state parks page. You can just go to all the state parks and then look up Smithgall Woods. We'll have a list of events and a list of numbers, like if you wanted to call the visitor center and talk to them about making a reservation of fish, or maybe if you want to stay in one of our cottages.
Oh, that was the other thing I meant to. So you have places on site that people can rent
yes.
to stay?
Yeah.
Oh, let's make sure we don't forget about that.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that because I saw that on the website and I'm like, I
Yeah,
had no idea that was an option. So tell us about what you have as far as cabin, overnight stays. How do people get connected with that?
Yeah, so Smithgall, we actually offer 6 cottages. Smithgall, we have the entrance that you come in off Highway 75 alternate, and then you park in the parking lot and go through the park. Right across from where you come in at, there's another road, and that'll actually take you to the cottages.
Okay.
The only way you can go down there, though, is actually if you're actually staying in a cottage. But these cottages, they are super nice. Like I said, there's 6 different ones. They range in different prices, but they have different amounts of bedrooms and bathrooms, too. A lot of them, you're going to have your own private bedroom, bathroom, things like that. But you can call the visitor center for more information on that. But I will tell you, once people see them back there, once you go back there and you see them, it's going to blow your mind because you wouldn't think that something, they were even over there. And, they're beautiful. They're really well done. And we have a lot of weddings and things like that. So sometimes, they'll come and they'll rent all the cottages out. And then it makes it a little cheaper that way because, if you have a big family, you can split. It's just kind of like a hotel. So you get your own room and bathroom, and we'll split the cost. And so a lot of people like doing that. The good thing about our cottages is we kind of try to keep them full because that's how we make our money here at the park. We don't really rely on the taxpayer dollar. We basically rely on funding from those cottages. So we kind of try to keep them full year round. So a lot of the time if you do want to stay, you have to book it a few months in advance. And sometimes we offer really good deals on weekends that, it wasn't booked or somebody canceled. And so that's posted on the Facebook too. Just keep an eye on that. And along with the cottages, we actually have 2 primitive campsites here at the park. The public can't come and use them, but if you have like a school group or a youth group, church group, something like that, we can actually rent those not rent them. You can, but we can actually let groups use those campsites and things like that. So that's actually on the park side, and then, on the other where the cottages are. And the good thing about the cottages too is a lot of fly fishermen are actually attracted to staying there because if you think about it, when you fish here, when you're just somebody from the public coming to fish, Only 15 people can be on this side of the stream, and it starts at 7:30 and ends at 4:30. The thing with the cottages, though, is if you pay to rent a cottage, stay in a cottage, you can fish from the time you get here until the time you leave. And only cottage guests have access to that section of the stream. So Highway 75 alternate basically splits the park from the cottage side. So everything from Highway 75 back through the cottage side is exclusive to cottage guests only.
Yeah.
And so, you got to think.
It's literally fish in a barrel.
Yeah. So you're pretty much going to be down there fishing wherever you want to fish for as long as you want to fish.
That's awesome.
And so a lot of people are attracted to it just for that.
And you mentioned weddings. Are the weddings here?
Yes.
Somebody wants to have an outdoor wedding. They've looked at some other venues that are maybe more traditional, if that's the right word, mountain wedding areas. You've got the ability to have that hosted here at the park.
Yep. So
and they just need to contact the visitor center to coordinate that, I guess.
Yep.
So the number for the visitor center is
706-878-3087.
And your Facebook page is just Smithgall Woods
State Park.
Okay.
And then along with that too, we actually have a newsletter that we post every month.
Okay.
So there's actually a link on our Facebook page that you can go in and type your email in and your name, and it'll add you to our mailing list. And every month we actually send out a newsletter of events for the upcoming month. And so you'll get what's coming up at Smithgall Woods the next month. And if you're interested in any of the events, you can just call, sign up, and come out.
Good deal. Well, I know you're busy, and I want to get outdoors, and I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
So, Angel, thank you so much for your time this morning. I personally have loved this and hope that those who are listening that have not been up here, we've given you so many different things, from the guided hikes to the cottage stays to the short list on the fly fishing to any of the above, that you'll come up and explore a beautiful part of the North Georgia region, and we may see you around here, and we may see a black bear. So with that, we'll wrap up. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good one.
This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live.